Some boys walk through the world like they own the light. I was just the shadow, watching him shine. I never thought I'd be telling this story to anyone, let alone posting it online for the world to see. But here I am, sitting in my room, still amazed at how one accidental text message changed everything. Let me introduce myself. I'm Gabriel. Gabe to my friends, though, honestly, there aren't many who call me that. Just Phil, really. I'm what you'd call a background character at Highland High. Decent grades, always on time, virtually invisible to the popular crowd. The kind of guy you'd probably forget was even in your class until yearbook day. For years I've struggled with how I look. Not that I'm hideous or anything, just average. Skinny arms, slightly hunched shoulders from hours of studying, and the kind of face that doesn't make an impression. At least that's how I saw myself. My confidence was practically non-existent, especially when it came to my body. "You should try working out," Phil suggested one day while we were playing video games in my bedroom. "Not because you need to, but because it might make you feel better about yourself." Phil has been my best friend since third grade. He's everything I'm not. Outgoing, effortlessly cool, and somehow friends with everyone without trying. But he's loyal to a fault and has this annoying habit of being right about things. It took 3 weeks of internal debate before I finally signed up for a trial membership at the local gym. The night before my first session, I barely slept, my mind conjuring images of muscular guys laughing as I struggled to lift even the lightest weights. What I didn't tell Phil, what I didn't tell anyone, was that another reason I wanted to start working out was because of him, Dave. Everyone at Highland knew Dave, the classic bad boy with the mysterious past who transferred in last year. Dark hair that always looked perfectly messy, arms covered in simple black tattoos, and a smile that appeared rarely but devastated completely when it did. He moved through school hallways like he owned them, always flanked by his small group of equally intimidating friends, Leo being the most vocal one. I'd never spoken to Dave. Guys like me don't talk to guys like him, but I'd noticed him. How could I not? And sometimes when I was brave enough to look a second longer than I should, I could swear he'd noticed me too. But that was just my imagination. Dave probably didn't even know I existed, until I accidentally sent him that gym selfie. It happened on my first day at the gym. I was a nervous wreck walking in, clutching my new water bottle like it was a lifeline. The place was intimidating, mirrors everywhere reflecting my obvious discomfort, the clanking of weights, grunts of exertion, and the unmistakable feeling that I didn't belong. First time? I jumped at the voice beside me. The instructor's name tag read Richard, and his smile seemed genuine enough. "That obvious, huh?" I managed to respond. "Everyone has a first day," Richard said kindly. "Let me show you around." Richard gave me a quick tour, demonstrated how to use the basic machines, and set me up with a simple beginner routine. "Just focus on form today, not weight," he advised. "And remember, everyone here started somewhere." His encouragement helped, and I spent the next hour cautiously trying different exercises, constantly checking my form in the mirrors. By the end, my muscles were pleasantly sore, and I felt a tiny spark of accomplishment. I'd done it. I'd actually gone to the gym and survived. That's when I made my fatal mistake. Standing in front of the locker room mirror, I impulsively decided to take a progress photo. "Day 1, I muttered to myself, pulling off my sweaty t-shirt. I flexed slightly, feeling ridiculous but also a little proud, and snapped a selfie. Nothing special, just me, shirtless, looking both exhausted and somehow determined. I immediately opened my chat with Phil to send him proof that I'd actually gone through with it. I typed a quick message. "Day 1 complete." Don't laugh, but my fingers were damp with sweat, and I must have tapped the wrong conversation. I didn't notice my error until after I'd hit send and saw the name at the top of the screen. Dave. I'd just sent a shirtless gym selfie to Dave, the intimidating bad boy I'd never even spoken to. My heart stopped. My fingers frantically tried to find a delete option, but the message showed as delivered. Then, seconds later, those dreaded blue check marks appeared. Seen. I stood frozen in the locker room, my face burning with humiliation, wondering if it was possible to drop out of school 5 months before graduation without my parents disowning me. My phone vibrated in my hand, nearly causing me to drop it on the tiled floor. A new message from Dave. With trembling fingers, I opened it, expecting mockery or disgust. Instead, I saw, "Not bad for a beginner. Keep it up." And below that, a selfie of his own. Dave, in what looked like a home gym, shirtless, with a hint of a smile that I'd never seen before. I stared at the screen for so long that it went black. Then I stared at it some more. What the hell just happened? This had to be some kind of joke, right? The first stage of an elaborate prank that would end with my complete humiliation? But as I walked home, my phone feeling like a live grenade in my pocket, I couldn't help but wonder if maybe, just maybe, this accident wasn't going to ruin my life after all. Little did I know, it was about to change it completely. The hours after receiving Dave's unexpected reply were pure torture. I must have stared at his message 100 times, analyzing every pixel of that selfie, trying to decode what it meant. Was he making fun of me, setting me up for some cruel joke, or was it actually genuine? I couldn't sleep that night. Around midnight, I finally broke down and called Phil. "Dude, you did what?" Phil practically shouted through the phone. I had to pull it away from my ear. I know. It's a disaster," I groaned, burying my face in my pillow. And he replied with his own shirtless pic? "That's interesting." I could hear the smile in Phil's voice. After hanging up, I drafted about 20 different responses before settling on a simple, "Thanks." First day, so still figuring things out. I didn't expect him to reply right away, but he did. Everyone starts somewhere. "What's your routine?" And just like that, we were talking? It felt surreal. For the next few days, Dave and I exchanged messages about workout tips and gym routines. He suggested exercises I could try, recommended protein shakes that didn't taste like chalk, and even sent me screenshots of beginner fitness plans. "Been at it for 3 years," he wrote. "Started skinnier than you." I couldn't imagine Dave ever being skinny, but there was something disarming about him admitting any kind of vulnerability. A week into our strange text friendship, the conversation shifted. "Saw you in English today. You really destroyed that analysis of Gatsby," he wrote. I nearly dropped my phone. Dave had noticed me in class? Had been listening to my comments? Our conversations began to expand beyond fitness. We discussed books. Turned out Dave was a closet literature nerd who loved classics but wouldn't be caught dead admitting it at school. He sent me music recommendations, mostly indie bands I'd never heard of but instantly loved. I shared my favorite sci-fi shows, and he actually watched them just so we could talk about them. "Why don't you ever mention this stuff at school?" I asked one night, 3 weeks into our text relationship. There was a long pause before his reply came through. "Same reason you hide in the back of classrooms even though you're smarter than everyone else. People put you in boxes. Easier to stay in them sometimes." I stared at those words for a long time. He was right. We were both hiding parts of ourselves, living within the narrow confines of other people's expectations. One night, scrolling through our conversation history, I realized we'd exchanged over 600 messages, but had never actually spoken face to face. The Dave I was getting to know through these late-night conversations seemed worlds apart from the intimidating figure who stalked the school hallways. That Dave scowled and radiated "stay away" energy. My Dave sent me astronomy facts at midnight and had strong opinions about character development in fantasy novels. Yes, I'd started thinking of him as my Dave. I knew it was dangerous, this growing attachment to someone who might still be playing some long, elaborate prank. But it didn't feel like a prank anymore. It felt real. "You should come to my gym sometime," he suggested after I complained about the limited equipment at my place. "Better machines, less crowded." My fingers hovered over the screen. This was it. The invitation to move from the safety of digital communication to the terrifying reality of actual human interaction. "I'm free Saturday morning," I typed, then instantly regretted it. Saturday was only 2 days away. 2 days to panic about seeing Dave in person, about whether our easy online rapport would translate to awkward silence in the real world. Cool. 9 a.m. I'll text you the address. I spent Friday night trying on every workout outfit I owned, a grand total of 3, before settling on the most basic black shorts and gray t-shirt combination. Nothing fancy, nothing that looked like I was trying too hard. Just regular gym clothes for a regular gym session with the not-so-regular guy who had somehow become the highlight of my day. Saturday morning arrived with the worst case of butterflies I'd ever experienced. As I typed the address Dave had sent into my GPS, I considered bailing at least 17 times. Only the thought of having to explain myself and knowing I'd ruin whatever this strange connection was kept me going. I pulled into the parking lot 15 minutes early, then sat in my car for 10 of those minutes, giving myself a pep talk that wasn't working. Finally, taking a deep breath, I grabbed my gym bag and walked toward the entrance, searching for any sign of Dave. And there he was, leaning against the wall outside, wearing a simple black tank top that showed off the tattoos running down his arms. When he spotted me, his face did something unexpected. He smiled. Not the cool, detached half-smile he wore at school, but something genuine that transformed his entire face. "You actually came," he said, pushing himself off the wall and walking toward me. "I said I would," I replied, suddenly feeling like maybe, just maybe, this wasn't going to be a disaster after all. The gym Dave brought me to was nothing like the budget-friendly one I'd been going to. This place had state-of-the-art equipment, a smoothie bar, and significantly fewer intimidating bodybuilders grunting at their reflections. "I have a family membership," Dave explained as he swiped his card for both of us. "My uncle owns the place." For the first 10 minutes, we moved through the space in awkward silence. All our easy text banter had evaporated in the face of actual physical proximity. I was hyper-aware of every movement I made, terrified of looking stupid or weak in front of him. "So," Dave finally said as I fumbled with adjusting a weight machine, "you want to start with something simpler?" The kindness in his voice surprised me. At school, Dave always spoke in short, clipped sentences, if he spoke at all. But here, his voice had a gentle quality I'd never heard before. He guided me through a basic routine, demonstrating each exercise first with perfect form. When it was my turn, he corrected my form with careful hands, his touch light but firm. "Back straight," he'd say, or "elbows in," his fingers ghosting over my shoulders or arms to guide me into proper position. By the end of our session, the awkwardness had dissolved into something comfortable. Dave was a patient teacher, never making me feel inadequate, despite the obvious gap in our fitness levels. Afterward, we grabbed protein shakes from the bar and sat on a bench outside. The spring sun felt good on my face after the air-conditioned gym. For a moment, we just sat there, drinking our shakes in companionable silence. "Why'd you respond to my accidental selfie?" I finally asked, the question that had been burning in me for weeks. "You could have ignored it, or made fun of me." Dave looked at his shake for a long moment before answering. "Honestly, because it was brave. Brave? It was an accident. Going to the gym was brave. Taking that picture was brave. You were putting yourself out there trying to change something." He paused. "And maybe because I recognized something in you." "What do you mean?" "You don't pretend to be something you're not. I've always noticed that about you at school. You're quiet, but you're real." He shrugged, looking almost embarrassed. "It's rare." My heart was doing strange things in my chest. Was Dave, intimidating, mysterious Dave, saying he admired me? "People think they know me," he continued, his voice lower now. "They see the tattoos, the attitude. Leo and those guys, they expect me to be this person who doesn't care about anything. It's exhausting sometimes." I nodded, understanding completely. "Small boxes." "Exactly. Small boxes." He smiled, recognizing his own words from our text conversation. "But you never seemed impressed by any of that stuff. You just do your own thing." The conversation flowed easily after that. We talked about books again, music, our families. I learned that Dave lived with his mom and stepdad, that he'd moved schools last year because of his stepdad's job, that the tough exterior had started as a defense mechanism at his old school, where being the new kid had made him a target. Once you get labeled, it's hard to shake, he said. Easier to just lean into it sometimes. Time slipped away from us. What was supposed to be a quick workout session turned into hours of conversation. I learned more about Dave in those hours than in all our text exchanges combined. The way his eyes crinkled when he really smiled. How he ran his hand through his hair when talking about something he cared about. The small, faded scar on his chin from a childhood bike accident. By the time we finally parted ways, something fundamental had shifted. The Dave I'd built up in my mind, both the intimidating school version and the idealized text version, had been replaced by someone real, someone complicated and imperfect and infinitely more interesting. We should do this again, he said as we walked to our cars. Yeah, definitely, I agreed, trying to sound casual while my heart raced. I mean, not just the gym, Dave clarified, a hint of uncertainty in his voice that I'd never heard before. Hanging out, maybe grab food or something. Was Dave nervous? The concept seemed impossible, yet there was a vulnerability in his expression that made me bold. I'd like that, I said simply. His smile in response was worth every second of anxiety leading up to this day. As I drove home, I couldn't stop replaying our conversations in my head. It felt surreal. Me, Gabriel, the invisible academic, somehow connecting with Dave, the school's resident bad boy. If someone had told me a month ago that this would happen, I'd have laughed in their face. My phone buzzed with a text as I pulled into my driveway. Thanks for today. It was good to finally talk for real. I smiled at my phone, typing back quickly before heading inside. Same. And thanks for not laughing at my pathetic attempt at bench pressing. His reply came instantly. Nothing pathetic about starting something new. See you Monday? Monday. School. The real world, where Dave had his reputation and friend group and I had, well, Phil and my corner of the library. Would everything change back once we were in those familiar hallways? See you Monday, I confirmed, trying to ignore the knot of anxiety forming in my stomach. What I didn't expect was how quickly Monday would arrive, or how drastically things would change once we were back in the world of Highland High. Monday morning arrived with a stomach full of butterflies. I spent an embarrassing amount of time deciding what to wear, something I'd never cared about before. I finally settled on my usual jeans and a slightly nicer t-shirt than my standard rotation. Nothing obvious, but maybe Dave would notice. You look different, my mom, Marina, remarked as I came downstairs for breakfast. New shirt, I mumbled, grabbing a piece of toast. No, it's not that. She studied me with that unsettling mom radar. You seem happier. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated with a text from Dave. Parking lot before first bell? My heart jumped into my throat. Dave wanted to meet before school. I quickly texted back a confirmation, ignoring my brother Edward's knowing smirk. The drive to school was a blur of anticipation and anxiety. I spotted Dave's black motorcycle in the parking lot immediately and pulled into a space nearby. He was leaning against it, scrolling through his phone, looking exactly like the bad boy stereotype in his leather jacket and ripped jeans. But now I knew it was just that. A stereotype, a carefully constructed image that hid the guy who sent me astronomy facts at midnight. He looked up as I approached, his face transforming with that genuine smile I was starting to crave. Hey, he said simply. Hey yourself, I replied, stopping a few feet away, unsure of the protocols here. We stood there awkwardly for a moment, the easy rapport from Saturday temporarily lost in the context of school grounds. I was acutely aware of other students walking past, some glancing curiously in our direction. So, Dave finally said, I was thinking about what you said about The Expanse being better than Battlestar Galactica. Just like that, tension broken. We fell into a heated but friendly debate about sci-fi shows, walking toward the school building side by side. It felt simultaneously normal and surreal, me and Dave talking openly like friends. At the main entrance, he paused. I've got to find Leo before class. Something about a physics assignment. Physics? I raised an eyebrow. I thought Leo was more of a minimum effort kind of student. Dave laughed. He is. That's why he needs my help. He hesitated for a moment. See you in English? The morning passed in a haze. When I finally walked into English class, Dave was already there, sitting in his usual spot at the back. Our eyes met briefly, and he gave me a small nod. I hesitated for just a moment before making a decision. Instead of sitting in my usual front row seat, I walked to the back and took the empty desk beside him. A few heads turned. Dave raised an eyebrow, but I could see the pleased surprise in his eyes. Bold move, he
It started
murmured as I
awkward,
sat down.
but it changed everything.
Thought I'd try something new.
Hit subscribe
I
for more
replied,
stories that go
heart
where you
hammering,
don't
but feeling
expect.
strangely confident. By Thursday, people had definitely noticed. I caught whispers in the hallway, curious glances when Dave and I were seen talking. For the most part, it was just mild interest. The unexpected friendship between two very different types of students. But not everyone was merely curious. I was at my locker Friday morning when Leo approached me, flanked by two other guys from Dave's usual group. My stomach clenched, but I tried to appear calm as I grabbed my textbooks. So, Leo said, leaning against the locker next to mine, you and Dave have gotten pretty tight. I shrugged, trying for nonchalance. We've been hanging out. Interesting timing, he continued, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Right after you started hitting the gym. Sent any good photos lately? My blood ran cold. How did he know about the selfie? Leo must have seen the panic on my face because he laughed. Relax, Brainiac. I'm just messing with you. Dave mentioned you guys met at the gym. Relief flooded through me, quickly followed by confusion. So Dave had told his friends about me, but not about the accidental selfie. Had he made up a different story about how we connected? What's your angle here? Leo asked, lowering his voice slightly. Dave's not exactly your usual crowd. No angle, I said, finding my voice. We just get along. Leo studied me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. He's different lately. Less, angry. Says you're smart. Talk about books and shit. Just so we're clear, Leo continued. Dave's a good guy. One of the best I know. If this is some weird social experiment or something. It's not, I interrupted, surprising myself with my firmness. Dave's my friend, that's it. Leo held my gaze for a moment longer, then broke into an unexpected smile. Good. He could use more real friends. He pushed off the locker. See you around, Gabriel. Dave wasn't in school that day. A doctor's appointment, according to his morning text. By the time the final bell rang, rumors had begun to circulate about why Leo and his friends had approached me. Phil caught up with me in the parking lot looking concerned. You okay? I heard Leo cornered you this morning. It wasn't like that, I said, although I wasn't entirely sure what it had been like. He was just checking me out, I guess, making sure I wasn't using Dave somehow. What? Who's worried? Just some people. You know how it is. Suddenly you're friends with someone from a totally different social circle. People talk. What are they saying? I demanded, a sick feeling growing in my stomach. Nothing specific, just wondering if it's some kind of joke or bet. Phil rushed to add, I told them they're idiots and don't know what they're talking about. I drove home in a daze, old insecurities flooding back. What if they were right? What if this whole thing was too good to be true? After talking with my brother Edward about my doubts, I felt somewhat better. He pointed out that I should trust my own judgment rather than the rumors of people who didn't know either of us. My phone buzzed with a text from Dave. Miss anything good today? Just people talking. The usual high school drama, I replied. About us? His response was quick and direct. Maybe, I replied. Leo came to check me out this morning. Sorry about that, he's protective. I should have warned you. People are going to talk. Does that bother you? Dave asked after a moment. I thought about it honestly. Did it bother me that people were gossiping about my sudden friendship with Dave? Yes, a little. But did it bother me enough to end whatever this was between us? No, I typed. It doesn't bother me. Good, he responded. Because I like hanging out with you, Gabriel. Don't care who knows it. I like hanging out with you too, I wrote back, and I don't care who knows it either. As I put my phone down, I realized with surprise that it was true. Whatever happened next, whether our friendship grew into something more or stayed exactly as it was, I was done hiding in the shadows, done letting fear of judgment dictate my choices. The weekend after my conversation with Leo felt like a turning point. I woke up Saturday morning to a text from Dave. My uncle's closing the gym for renovations today. Want to hang out somewhere else instead? My heart did that now familiar flip. Hanging out at the gym had a clear purpose, a reason that justified our time together. This was different, just hanging out for the sake of being together. Sure, I typed back. Any ideas? There's a cool bookstore downtown with a coffee shop. We could check it out. A bookstore? Of course, Dave would suggest a bookstore. The literature nerd hiding beneath tattoos and leather continued to surprise me. Sounds perfect. Need a ride? I'll pick you up. Ik bajje dopeher? I stared at the message. Pick me up? On his motorcycle? The thought sent equal parts excitement and terror through me. See you then, I replied, trying to sound casual while my mind raced with images of holding on to Dave as we sped through town. I spent the next 4 hours in a state of nervous anticipation, changing my outfit 3 times before settling on simple jeans and a blue button-up shirt that Marina once said brought out my eyes. Hot date? Edward asked, leaning against my doorframe with a knowing smirk. Not a date, I said automatically, even though I wasn't entirely sure that was true. Just hanging out. The sound of a motorcycle engine rumbling up our driveway cut our conversation short. I rushed to the window, pulse quickening at the sight of Dave parking his black bike. He removed his helmet, running a hand through his slightly flattened hair, and my stomach did a somersault. Dave was waiting by his bike, holding a spare helmet. He wore his usual dark jeans and boots, but instead of his leather jacket, he had on a simple gray hoodie that somehow made him look softer, more approachable. Hey, he said, his face lighting up with that smile that seemed reserved just for me. Nothing felt simple about wrapping my arms around Dave's waist as the motorcycle roared to life beneath us. Nothing felt simple about the solid warmth of his back against my chest, or the way my heart pounded as we pulled out of the driveway and onto the main road. But as we picked up speed, something unexpected happened. The initial terror gave way to exhilaration. The wind rushed past us, carrying away all my worries about school and rumors and labels. Inside the bookstore, the scent of old books and fresh coffee created an immediately comforting atmosphere. Mismatched armchairs were scattered among the bookshelves, some occupied by people reading quietly. I discovered this place last summer, Dave explained as we wandered between the shelves. It's my secret hideout when I need to escape. The significance of him sharing this space with me wasn't lost on me. This wasn't just any hangout spot. This was somewhere personal, important to him. We spent hours exploring the cramped aisles, pulling out books to show each other, debating authors and genres in hushed voices. Eventually, we settled in a corner with coffee and the books we'd selected, a weathered copy of Neuromancer for me and Notes from Underground for Dave. This is nice, I said after a while, looking up from my book. Different from texting or the gym. Dave marked his page and closed his book. Good different? Definitely good different. Something shifted in the air between us. Dave's eyes held mine, steady and searching. Gabriel, he started, then hesitated. About school and people talking. I know, and I don't either, but... He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture I now recognized as a sign of nervousness. I need to be honest about something. My stomach dropped. Here it comes, I thought, the punchline to what had seemed too good to be true. I didn't just respond to your selfie because it was brave, Dave continued, his voice lower now. I responded because I'd been trying to figure out how to talk to you for months. I blinked, certain I'd misheard. What? I noticed you on my first day at Highland, he admitted. You were demolishing Mr. Parker's argument about Holden Caulfield being a hero, and you weren't backing down even when the whole class disagreed. I thought it was impressive. You noticed me? Before the selfie? Dave's laugh was soft, almost self-deprecating. Hard not to. But I didn't know how to approach you without it being weird. I'm not exactly in your usual social circle. The irony wasn't lost on me. While I'd been secretly watching him from afar, convinced he didn't know I existed, he'd been doing the same thing. So when I got your text, he continued, it felt like some cosmic intervention, a perfect excuse to finally talk to you. Why are you telling me this now? I finally asked. Because people are talking, he said simply. And I don't want you to think this is some recent fascination or worse, some kind of joke. It's not. It's been building for a while. The honesty in his eyes left me breathless. Without thinking, I reached across the table and took his hand. His fingers instantly intertwined with mine, warm and certain. For what it's worth, I said, finding courage I didn't know I had. I noticed you too. From day one. The ride home felt different, more intimate somehow. I held onto Dave tighter than necessary, my cheek resting against his back. When we finally pulled into my driveway, neither of us seemed eager to end the day. So, I said finally, think the rumors will be worse or better by Monday? Dave laughed. Definitely worse, especially if you wear my hoodie to school. I looked down, realizing I was still wrapped in his gray sweatshirt. Oh, I should give this back. Keep it, he said quickly. It looks better on you anyway. The weight of those words, the clear marking of territory, the public statement it would make, wasn't lost on me. If I showed up at school wearing Dave's clothes, there would be no ambiguity left about our relationship. You sure? I asked quietly. Instead of answering, Dave stepped closer, eliminating the space between us. His hand came up to cup my cheek, thumb lightly tracing my jawline. My heart hammered against my ribs as his gaze dropped to my lips. I'm sure about a lot of things lately, he murmured, so close now that I could feel his breath on my face. When his lips finally met mine, soft and questioning, my eyes fluttered closed. The kiss was gentle, almost hesitant at first, as if he was afraid I might break. But when my hands found their way to his shoulders, pulling him closer, something shifted. The kiss deepened, became more certain, more real. When we finally broke apart, both slightly breathless, Dave rested his forehead against mine. Been wanting to do that since the gym, he admitted, his voice rough. Just since the gym? I teased, surprising myself with my boldness. He laughed, the sound vibrating through me where our bodies pressed together. Fair point, way before the gym. A door opened behind us, and we jumped apart like guilty teenagers, which I suppose we were. Edward stood in the doorway, arms crossed but expression amused. After Dave left with a promise to see me Monday, I couldn't help but think about how drastically my life had changed in such a short time. The Gabriel who had accidentally sent that gym selfie a month ago would never have imagined standing in his driveway, lips tingling from the kiss of the school's resident bad boy, heart full of certainty rather than doubt. As I watched him ride away, still wrapped in his hoodie that smelled of him, I realized something profound had shifted. The greatest transformation wasn't happening in my body from those gym sessions, but in my sense of self, in my willingness to step out of the shadows and claim my own happiness, regardless of what anyone else might think. Monday would bring what it would bring, and for the first time ever, I couldn't wait to face it head on. If you've ever loved someone who didn't even know, this channel is for you. Subscribe and be seen.